Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the world of high-stakes international relations. We're going to break down a reported diplomatic incident between the US and Japan, and believe me, it's a perfect example of how even the smallest gestures can have really, really big implications. So let's get right into it. Every state visit, every handshake, every single photo op, it all follows this super carefully choreographed script. But what happens when someone just goes off book? To really get why that's such a big deal, we've got to understand the script itself. And that script is called diplomatic protocol. All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of what happened, we need to set the stage. We've got to understand the rule book these leaders are playing by. So what exactly is diplomatic protocol? Well, you can think of it as the official code of conduct for global politics. It's kind of like the operating system for diplomacy, right? It's the thing that makes sure interactions between world leaders, no matter how different their cultures are or what they disagree on, just run smoothly. It's all about being respectful and, crucially, avoiding any accidental insults. And here's the thing you have to remember. These rules are absolutely not just for show. They have some really important jobs to do. First, showing respect. That's basically you saying, I recognize you as a legitimate nation. Then, preventing misinterpretation. So key, because one wrong move could be seen as a massive insult. And finally, having this predictable environment just lets everyone relax and focus on the important stuff, the actual talks, instead of worrying about the ceremony. Okay, so with that background, let's turn to the specific incident that our source material talks about. This is where all that theory about protocol crashes right into the real world, during a pretty high-profile meeting in Japan. So, what we're looking at here is a formal welcome ceremony. And you have to understand, these things are just packed with symbolic moments. Every little detail is designed to scream partnership and respect. But, according to the source, observers on the ground noticed a few things. A sequence of actions that definitely seemed to depart from the usual script. So let's break down the three key moments here. First up, skipping the photo op by the flags. I mean, that's a classic moment, right? It's meant to symbolize unity between the two nations. So to just walk past it, that gets noticed. Then there was the salute. Now, this is a big one. A salute is a military gesture. For a civilian leader to do that to foreign troops, well, it's pretty unconventional, and it can send all sorts of confusing signals. And finally, the walk. The idea is to walk side by side with your host, but in this case, one leader walked ahead. And that can easily look like you're breaking from that visual of being equal partners. So what happens when you break protocol like that? Well, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the news cycle. A vacuum of information gets filled, and it gets filled with speculation. These unexpected moments kicked off a total media frenzy, with everyone trying to answer the big question, why did this happen? And what's really fascinating is the range of that speculation. Our source material highlights two competing theories that started flying around in some media circles. On one hand, you had rumors that maybe he was drunk. And on the other hand, you had a much less dramatic theory. Maybe he was just sleepy, jet-lagged from a long trip. But the real takeaway here isn't about which theory was right. It's that the damage from breaking protocol isn't just the act itself. It's the wild, uncontrolled story that can spin out of it afterward. This whole thing really brings us to a much bigger question, and it's probably the most important one. It kind of forces us to take a step back and think about where these traditions fit in our world today. I mean, why do we still care so much about these tiny, seemingly minor details? And that right there is the core debate this whole thing shines a light on. On one side, you have people who say, look, these protocols are the bedrock of diplomacy. They're essential symbols of respect. But on the other side, you've got folks who argue that in our world of Twitter and instant communication, these old formalities are just outdated, that what really matters is authentic, off-the-cuff interaction. So it really leaves us with this huge question, right? In the incredibly high-stakes game of global politics, what's more dangerous, breaking the rules or being trapped by them?